Hi guys, my name is Amanda Zito and today we are doing part 2 of my Q&A. If you have not watched part 1 yet, you can hit the button over there and go watch part 1. And before we jump into questions, I just have a little bit of a life update. I got laid off from my job. Still kind of processing it and what that means for my future, but I am still going to go on the California CABDR. That's still going to happen. I try to keep you guys updated over on my Instagram, and also I try to use the community tab as much as I can without spamming you guys. But all things considered, if you guys would like to help me out during this transition, if you could share the links to my shops and my Patreon with your friends, or even just sharing these videos with your friends, help me out a ton. There are links down below to my Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month you can get early access to videos like these and all of my motorcycle art, and my Ko-Fi, where you can buy me a coffee or a gallon of gas, and last but not least, my Redbubble and my Etsy shop, where you can get t-shirts, stickers, prints, and all of that good stuff with my motorcycle art on them. Without further ado, let's jump back into questions. Okay, the next 3 questions are all really similar, so I'm going to answer all of them right here. Will Ashmore asks, what's your dream bike? I have wanted the Africa Twin for a really long time, but I feel like the Husky 701 would probably be closer to filling kind of a gap in my bike collection, but I really love my Tiger, so that's a really hard question to answer. Hazer Live asks, what bike would you get and where would you go if money was no object? And kind of in the same vein, For the Love of Knobs asks, what is your dream trip on your dream bike? I mean, if money were no object, then I could just get a dirt bike to fill out my collection of bikes and then probably do the trip on my Tiger. Where would I go? I really want to go to Mongolia, but I also really want to go to South America, like really bad. But if money were no object, then I'd have enough money to pay or hire whoever I need to so that I could ride in China. So probably that. That would be my dream trip, riding in China. And last in this little trio of questions, Danny Stallings asks, any international moto adventures in your future? What's appealing? What's the dream ride? Right now, I don't have any international motorcycle trips planned. I still have to go to Canada, so more than likely that will be my next out of the US excursion. And also, since it's been a little bit of time, I kind of want to go back to Baja just a little bit and do Baja my way. A whole lot more camping and a whole lot less hotels and a whole lot less of other people's opinions. As far as dream rides, like I said, Mongolia, Bolivia, or China. So if there's any motorcycle tour companies watching, I would exchange a whole lot of really awesome footage if you could just like let me go on one of your rides. That'd be cool. Coach Ron says, hi Amanda, I have a question, but first I enjoy watching your adventures in motorcycle nirvana. Thank you. I believe you are an ambassador to safe motorcycle operations without having to take excessive risks while still having a tremendous amount of fun. Bravo. Thank you, I really appreciate that. So as you continue your journey, do you plan on honing in on your skills such as motorcycle classes, track days, advanced riding, or even survival skills? At this point right now, I don't really have plans to take any classes. I would really love to take like a dirt bike riding class or something like that to improve my skills on the big bikes, but they're really expensive and I can't at this point justify paying for one of those classes, especially when and if I have that amount of money in my pocket. I'd rather use it to go see places I really want to see, you know. That's me personally. I think that if you have the money and you want to and you see room for improvement, you should totally take a class. They're super useful. I personally just don't have any plans to do so, and my budget doesn't really allow for that kind of spending. Maybe in the future, when my credit card debt is a lot lower than it is now and I don't have any medical bills that I'm paying on. Growing up in Montana, survival skills are just kind of a part of the thing that you learn growing up. I've taken hunter safety. In middle school, we had this whole survival course that we all had to take as a part of the curriculum, actually. So I know how to make shelter if I don't have a tent or anything like that. I know how to find food in the woods. I know how to hunt. I know how to skin a deer. You know, I can get by. That one guy asks, how has riding motorcycles fared as a placeholder for your horses? I don't think that it's replaced my love of horses or kind of filled this need that I have every once in a while that I just really want to go ride a horse, like really bad. And I miss my horses every single day. But I think it's definitely given me something else to focus my attention on that's still outdoors related. That was a good question. For the Love of Knobs asks, what are you doing to prep for the CABDR? Body, packing, bike, camera, etc. Well, camera-wise, I got a new drone. I got the Magpie Air. I'm super excited to not have to have essentially a whole another duffel-sized backpack on the back of my bike. That's super exciting. And as many people will be relieved to hear, I also got the Garmin InReach, so I will never not be able to text people if I hurt myself again. I also got a new to me Garmin Montana GPS, which I am still learning how to use. I have also been binging the movie on Vimeo and taking notes and comparing what I'm seeing from the movie to the paper map and the notes on the paper map, and kind of trying to figure out the sections that I can do and the sections that it's probably a really good idea for me not to do. Those are decisions that we're really gonna make on the route once we get in front of it and see the obstacle and what it looks like, and I can judge for myself whether I think I can do it or not. As far as the bike goes, Astreas is getting an oil change and a new front tire. I'm not replacing the rear tire right now. If I get to Yuma and it looks really, really awful, I'll change it, but it really only has 500 miles on it right now, so I think it'll be fine. Obviously a deep clean, just so I can make sure that there isn't anything outstanding that I didn't notice since the bike has been parked for so long. I've also begun the pile, which is code for trying to find everything that has been spread throughout the house since my last trip. Body-wise though, I really have just been keeping up on my stretches for my wrist, trying to keep these muscles loose. This last cold snap that we had in Portland, it hurt a little bit more than I thought that it would, although that's probably to be expected. Taking a lot of vitamins, blah, 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 blah. I haven't been doing any workouts or anything like that. I had grand ideas about doing that, but I've had a bunch of deadlines for other commissions come up that have kind of impeded doing anything but that. So Chris Fant wants to know if you bring a mascot on your trips, like a stuffed animal or other keepsakes. I think Motocow is the closest thing that I have to a mascot that has gone with me on trips, but he hasn't gone on a trip in a little while. I also have this little packet of charms that I take with me every time I go on longer trips. It's got like a medallion that my grandmother used to wear. It's got a little angel. It's also got this little piece of granite that somebody in Phillipsburg gave me to protect me on my travels, and other little tiny trinkets like that that people have given me. It's just kind of a packet of Lucky Charms. NSP Biker asks, hi Amanda, I appreciate your perspective and style. Thank you. Us hobbyist videographers would love to hear tips on how and when to use lens filters and when or why to use certain frame rates and resolutions. Keep up the good work. Thank you. So ideally for video, you want your shutter speed to be double your frame rate. This gives it a kind of natural amount of motion blur. So for example, if you're shooting 24 frames per second, you want your shutter speed to be 1/50. Or if I'm shooting a fast-paced sequence and I want to be able to slow it down later and I shoot 60 frames per second, I want the shutter speed to be 1/125. The problem with this is that you're letting in a lot of light into the lens, and that means if you have a lot of light in your scene or if you're shooting outdoors, it can blow out all of your highlights. This is why ND filters exist, and they're often referred to as sunglasses for your lens, because you have more control over how much light is entering your lens while still being able to run that frame rate and that shutter speed. Polarizers are also filters you can screw onto the end of your lens, and they are made to bring out more saturated colors in your photos, especially blues. They're normally recommended for drone footage so that your sky is nice and blue and not just white. There's also a ton of other filters that I don't know a ton about, like Pro Mist filters, which I think is supposed to make everything a little bit softer, ultralight filters, step up rings, blah, blah, blah. There is a link down below to a video by Peter McKinnon where he explains all of these things much better than I can. As far as when to use certain frame rates, the standard is 24 frames per second, but if you want to be able to slow things down in post and do kind of slow-mo B-roll, 60 to 120 frames per second is ideal for that. If you're filming a talking head video at 60 to 120 frames per second, it's gonna look really weird when people watch it back. As for resolution, 1080p is plenty fine for YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. Anything below 1080p is gonna look like trash. Okay, not trash, but it's not gonna look great. I like recording at 2K on helmet cameras because action cameras tend to flatten out the scenery really badly, so at the very least, I want that image to be sharp. I know that everybody flips out about 4K, and yes, it looks amazing when people who know what they're doing are color correcting it and editing it, but in reality those files are really, really large. And if you're just making like a little vlog of your trip and you have like 4 hours of 4K helmet cam footage, that is going to eat up a lot of space, and it's going to take a lot of time to render when you get home and you edit it. And in reality, if somebody is watching your content on YouTube and different internet speeds are normally going to squash that video quality down to 480p unless somebody goes over and manually clicks the higher resolution. If you're making a video for a film festival or for a client, that is a totally different story. But at least for YouTube, you should focus on all of your video footage being at least 1080p and making a really interesting story. Okay, last one. At Harley Girl 1200 asks, I'd like to ride to Glacier National Park either from Salt Lake City or Seattle. Did you have any thoughts on either of those starting points? As far as scenery, gas, camping, etc., I'd probably camp along the way. If you're going to start in Salt Lake City, if you can, I highly recommend going through Wasatch National Forest. That place was amazing. The pass still had snow on it, but it was absolutely beautiful. And then Teton Pass going from Idaho into Jackson Hole, Wyoming was awesome. And then you're in Jackson, Wyoming, so you might as well ride through Teton National Park. I'm just saying. And then if you're already doing that, you might as well hop over from West Glacier to Bannock State Park, which is this amazing ghost town in Montana, and then from there go up Pioneer Mountain Scenic Byway. It's a severely underrated road that I talked about in my last Q&A video, and then hop over to 93 and go through the Bitterroot Valley. It is amazing. You will not regret it. If you're starting from Seattle, I recommend trying to figure out how to swing riding through Cascade National Park if you can. If not, then you can swing down and go over Lolo Pass. I know it's kind of out of the way. You could totally straight shot it over to Glacier National Park from Seattle, but Lolo Pass is like this amazing twisty 100 miles of road right next to the Clearwater River. My only notes for Lolo Pass is that you really want to get gas in Kamiah. It is the last place for service until Lolo. In an emergency, you can get gas from Loxaw Lodge, but if it's a holiday weekend or the peak of summer, they can sometimes be out of gas. So just keep that in mind. As far as camping goes, I recommend doing as much camping in national forests as you possibly can, whether that's designated national forest campgrounds or dispersed camping. Highly recommend. It is so much more worth it to pay either nothing for dispersed camping or like $8 to $16 for a national forest campground than it is to pay $25 to almost $50 for an RV park campground when they say that they have amenities and then half the time those amenities don't work, especially Wi-Fi. I have only been at a handful of RV parks that have advertised Wi-Fi that has actually worked. So take my advice and do as much camping in national forests as you possibly can. Okay, I think that's all of them. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end. I really appreciate it. Thank you everybody who has submitted questions. This has been really fun. Thank you everybody who is already supporting me on Patreon and have donated money to my Ko-Fi account. I really appreciate you. And also everybody who has already sent me care packages and bought things off of my California BDR wish list. That stuff is going to help me out so much. And if you missed the post in the community tab last week, I got a P.O. box. So if you would like to send me letters or stickers or care packages, I now have a P.O. box. You can see that next to my head somewhere, or you can grab it from the description down below. And like I said at the beginning of this video, my links to my Patreon, my Redbubble, my Etsy shop are all down in the description if you would like to help me out or if you would like to share those with your friends. That does help me so much. And I do really appreciate you guys watching my videos. Even if you can't buy a shirt or anything like that, if you share this with your friends, it does help me out a lot. Make sure that you hit that like and subscribe button so that you don't miss my California BDR videos when they come out. In the meantime, guys, thank you so much for watching and all of your support. I could not do this without you. And I will see you later. And now there's a barking dog. Difficulties of filming in an urban area. Not only do we have to contend with like a bazillion cars driving by, but also, you know, if somebody comes home suddenly and they live right next to the park and they have a barking dog. So there's that.